Okay, guys, welcome. We are going to talk about solving proportions today, okay? So I have two definitions. The first one is a proportion, and that just means that it's an equation that states that two ratios are equal, okay? What's a ratio? A ratio is something that compares two numbers with division. So if I want to show you guys couple of examples of both, I'm going to start with ratios. So a couple of examples of ratios are A over B. I see division, it's comparing two numbers, two variables, anything. Okay? Or I could write a ratio as this. $25 for two shirts. That's a ratio. It's comparing two numbers in a certain way. Okay? If I take a step up and I look at proportions, it's an equation. What this means, you see this word equation, you automatically know that there is an equal sign, okay? So it's an equation that states that two ratios are equal. A over B equals C over D. Or $25 over two shirts equals $50 over four shirts. So it's representing two ratios that are equal, okay? So when we are given, when we're given two, when we're given proportions, there are two different ways that we can solve, okay? So we're gonna do one problem in two different ways, okay? So our problem is 5 over 6 equals m over 12, okay? So the first way I'm going to do it is through the multiplication property. Really, a simple word for that is just solving like regular, okay? Solving like we normally would. So I have 5 over 6 equals m over 12. What I mean by that is when we look at the right-hand side, we see our variable, and then we want to get the other number away. We want it to go to the other side. And I see that it's being divided by 12, meaning that in order to move it to the other side, I need to use the inverse operation of multiplication. They cancel, and then I'm left with multiplying on the left-hand side. Now, since it is a fraction, I'm going to turn it into a fraction. I'm just going to put a 1 over it and go from there. So when I multiply two fractions, all I do is multiply my numerators and multiply my denominators. So I have 12 times 5, which is 60, over 6 times 1, which is 6. And my right-hand side is just m. And I can reduce this. 60 divided by 6 gives me 10. And I get that m equals 10. So, something really important about the multiplication property. You can only really use this multiplication property if m is in the numerator. I'm going to say it again. I need you to write it down. You can only use the multiplication property if your variable is in the numerator. Okay? I'm going to show you the cross products property, which you guys, I think, like to call it the butterfly method. I love this method because it works no matter where your variable is. Okay? So the reason why it's called the butterfly method is because you're going to multiply the butterfly wings. Okay? So 5 times 12 gives me 60, and that equals 6 times m, which is 6m. Okay? Now I want to get my m alone. I need to get rid of this 6 and move it to the other side. I see multiplication, so I need to do the inverse operation, division, divide, divide. And I get that m equals 10. Okay, so it's just two different ways. You're getting the same answer, and realistically, you're doing the same exact thing. All right, so let's move on, and we are going to display a definition for you guys. So, cross products property, I just went over it. We did an example of it, but we're going to do another one. The real definition of this is the cross products of a proportion are equal. So if you think of an X, you can pull your hands up as an X. You're doing your butterflies. So you're doing one way, the left, and then you're doing the right also. Okay? So as an example, just like a formula, we're going to have A over B equals C over D. Using the cross products method, what this means is that AD equals CB. Okay? So let's do another example. So we're going to have 4/3 equals 8 over x. Okay? If I'm doing my cross products method, I am going to do my 4 and my x, and then my 3 and my 8. So I'm left with 4x, because it's 4 times x, equals 8 times 3, which gives me 24. I need to get my x alone, so I want to divide both sides by 4. Divide both sides by 4, and I'm left with x equaling 6. Okay? I want you guys to try one on your own. This is going to be in orange, and you guys are going to solve this proportion using the cross products method. Y over 3 equals 3 over 5. Okay? Awesome job. Proportions are fun. We are going to delete. And we are going to do another one, okay? So this is called a multi-step proportion. We're going to do it the same way that we have been doing other ones in the past. Let me just write it down for you. So we want to solve the proportion b minus 8 over 5 equals b plus 3 over 4. Now it looks more complicated, but we're going to follow the same method as before. We're going to do the butterfly method. So I'm going to do this one first. So I'm going to do 4 times b minus 8. So I'm going to write 4 times b minus 8. And that equals, now this side, we have 5 times b plus 3. Okay? So I see parentheses, so I need to distribute. So my first step is to distribute this 4 to both terms on the inside. So I have 4 times b, which is 4b, minus 8 times 4, which is 32, equals 5 times b, which is 5b, plus 5 times 3, which is 15. So now I have an equation with variables on two sides of the equation, which was section 2.4, which we went over. So if you need a recap on that, please go back to that video. But what I like to do is move my smallest. So I want to move my 4b instead of my 5b. So I need to subtract on both sides. Subtract on both sides. I'm left with negative 32 equals 5 minus 4, which is 1b, which is just b, plus 15. Now my b is almost alone. I need to move this positive 15 by subtracting both sides. Subtracting both sides. And I'm left with b equals negative 47. Okay? I need you guys to try this next one on your own. It's using a very similar method. We're using the butterfly method, but it's a little less complicated than this one in orange. So I have n over 5 equals 2n plus 4 over 6. You're only going to have to distribute to one side, so that's a plus. All right, my friends, I have one more problem for you guys. I definitely need you to copy it down because it is important to work on some word problems, okay? So our problem here is that you have a phone and your phone has 2 gigabytes of storage. And those 2 gigabytes mean that you can hold 500 songs. Pretty cool. And then you have an iPad and that has 80 gigabytes of storage. And you want to find out how many songs that iPad can hold based on the ratio of gigabytes to songs that your phone has. Okay, so we're going to set this up. So I'm going to first look at your phone. Okay, so your phone we know has 2 gigabytes, and that equates to 500 songs. I'm just going to do S, okay? So now let's see what we know about your iPad. Your iPad has 80 gigabytes, and we don't know how many songs it has, right? So I'm going to do X songs, okay? And in order to figure out how many songs it has, we are going to set these two ratios equal to each other to create a proportion to figure out how many songs. Now, if I take all of my units away, I'm going to move it up here. I have 2 over 500 equals 80 over x. I'm going to solve this just as I solved my previous problems. I'm going to use my butterfly method. Okay, so 2 times x gives me 2x, and that equals 500 times 80, which is going to give me 40,000. To get x alone, I want to divide by 2, divide by 2. So I get that x equals 20,000. So what that means is that if your iPad has the same gigabyte to song ratio, you would be able to hold 20,000 songs. So it's really important to put units onto this. 20,000 songs onto that iPad. Okay, that's all I have for you guys. And this is the end of chapter 2, so congratulations. Please again write down any questions that you have. I'm more than happy to answer. Study up for your test.